Is over.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a Press Pros Huddle Show. I'm Bruce Hooley. That's Sonny Folks beside me. Week 10 of the high school football season. Can you believe it's here already? I can't believe that we are on the cusp of the playoffs. We got some big games this weekend in Western Ohio and Central Ohio, and one that's kind of in between. And we're going to preview that game for you. West Jefferson and Mechanicsburg. We'll have Coach Shawn Buescher on momentarily, all you West Jeff Roughrider fans. And first, I got to say hi to my friend, Mr. Sonny Folks, who's probably killing you to tear yourself away from a Major League Baseball game to do the show.
You know, I'm a big Freddie Freeman fan. I'm not that much of a fan of that many Major League athletes, but Freddie Freeman is just a great player, and I'm tickled to watch how well the Braves have done. They've known their fair share of postseason frustration in the last quarter century, and you know they're about to go up 3-0 on Los Angeles, and we're down 2-0 in the first inning. So they have not had a great pitching performance, or at least a great start of the game tonight, and yet they battle back. They're ahead 5-2. I think aren't you watching the game there on your iPad?
I am 5-2 in the sixth inning, so there's plenty of outs yet to be recorded. I wouldn't say they're about to go up 3-0 because the Dodgers can definitely rally on them. But we got football to talk about, and we have a couple teams over in our original Press Pros area that are bearing down on undefeated seasons. Let me see. We have Marion Local, number 1 ranked in Division 7, and we have the Piqua Indians, who I didn't look at the polls this week. Piqua 3 in Division 2.
I think there's 3 statewide.
So Bill Neese and Tim Goodwin bearing down on undefeated seasons. We got a couple other teams with 1 loss. Tri-Village has 1 loss. Preble Shawnee is 9-0. Coldwater's lost twice, but Coldwater's going to be a factor, a big-time factor in Division 6. And, hey, don't take your eye off the defending Division 7 champion, New Bremen. New Bremen could surprise some teams in the playoffs. I would stay pretty honest on that one. And then we've got Milton Union is 8-1. Milton Union plays at Riverside on Friday night. That will be for the championship of the inaugural Three Rivers Conference, Take 2 for the TRC.
Yeah, and if you're interested, our first person this week interview video on the front page is with Brett Pierce. We did that earlier this week. He is a great football coach, a great guy, a fun guy. And I think the thing that impresses me year after year, this is his second tenure as coach there. And I've always remarked at how much his kids seem to enjoy playing for him. And that's, if you've ever been there Friday night, and you were last week, you know what a great environment is at Memorial Stadium in West Milton. So they've got a big game, and a game that he's concerned about Friday night up at DeGraff, Ohio, in Logan County, when they play Riverside. And if Riverside wins that game, there could be a two-way tie for first place between Riverside and Milton Union. So a win for Milton Union means they win it outright and finish 9-1. And I've said this before for the last few weeks. I think they're a little bit better, maybe in their region 16 than number 7. But, you know, well, it doesn't matter if you get there and you get a chance. You got to beat somebody, anybody. So anyway, you know, that's one of our feature games for Friday night, and I'm looking forward to seeing them in person.
Yeah, Central Ohio, Upper Arlington is bearing down on its division championship in the OCC. Bears are 9-0. Marysville obviously is 9-0. Marysville plays Olentangy on Friday night. Olentangy dealing with a really, really tough emotional situation. A young man passed away last weekend, and teammate of a lot of the Olentangy kids, and just very, very sorry to hear that. And our hearts go out to the people in the Olentangy district over that one. But Marysville with Gabe Powers is coming in there on Friday night, looking to roll on into the playoffs. And last week we had 5 teams in Central Ohio ranked among the top 10 in Division 1. New Albany is trying to put a bow around an undefeated season. New Albany with a thrilling comeback victory last week over Pickerington Central. So we've got a lot of football to cover, a lot of football yet ahead. 5 weeks into playoffs is Optum. And speaking of the state football playoffs, we are presented by our presenting sponsor, visitcanton.com. VisitCanton.com is your home for all the dining, lodging, entertainment options that you want to know about in Stark County for state football championship weekend, December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. VisitCanton.com. That's the site you go to. You see their ads on all of Press Pro's high school football content. So do not sleep on visitcanton.com. They'll get you all set for what's going to be a phenomenal weekend up there at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium, right next to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And with that, I know we have a coach ready to join us whose team is certainly thinking about a long postseason run. He is Coach Shawn Buescher of the West Jefferson Roughriders, and they play Mechanicsburg on Friday night at Mechanicsburg for the Ohio Heritage Conference Championship. Coach, thanks so much for your time tonight.
I appreciate you having me on.
So Mechanicsburg and West Jeff, not anything unusual for you two guys to be playing for a league championship. You know each other well, and I guess you shared with us that you used to open with them. Maybe it's fitting that you guys have moved that to the other end of the schedule.
Yeah, it is. I mean, for years before we joined the Ohio Heritage Conference, this is only our 5th year in the Ohio Heritage. But prior to that, during our entire tenure here at West Jeff, we always opened with Mechanicsburg. So there's a long history here of two very successful football programs. I think, if I'm not mistaken, over the past 5 years, counting this year, I think we're 48-8 over the last 5 years, and they're flipping like 45-10, counting the playoffs, both of us. So as you alluded to, both programs have had a lot of success. It's a great game. It's one that we really look forward to each and every year, regardless if it's week 1, week 10, or somewhere in between, to be honest.
Coach, I want to give creds to your football program and your football community. As we talked earlier today, I remember well going over there last year for your playoff game with Covington. I happen to live in Covington, so I'm very familiar with that program, and they've got a great history. But I was so impressed with the community. One, I love those University of Wyoming uniforms that you guys wear, the brown and the gold. And when I heard your speaking voice, I thought, wow, that guy could be with the Oak Ridge boys. He's got the pipes. But I was really impressed just with your football environment over there. I know it means a lot. I have family from West Jefferson, as I shared with you, and you've been there 20 years. Tell me a little bit about what it was like when you got there and how it's grown since you've been there.
Well, to be honest, there's a great tradition here, and it was tradition rich well before I got here. But I was a very young coach when I took the job, and I was the 5th coach in 6 years, believe it or not. It was about as downtrodden as you could be. There was a lot of turnover. Our first year, we only had 20-some kids on the football team. So we had a total rebuild job. And I was convinced to take this job by the principal at the time, Dave Metz, who was the former head coach here, who's in the high school Coaches Hall of Fame, and deservingly so. And Dave set me down, and when they offered me the job, and to be honest with you, I was very leery at first about even taking it. And then through him having a conversation with me at the time, our superintendent, Bill Mollett, who actually is still here, has been great to work for. They convinced me to take the job, and I'm so glad I did. And it's been built through a lot of great players, a lot of great coaches, and community support here, as you alluded to. Sonny is tremendous. It's one of the best small school jobs in Central Ohio. It's not utopia, but everybody's got problems. But we've been very blessed here as a family. My wife is a elementary curriculum director here. I have a young man that's a senior, a son, and I have another one that's an 8th grader. This is the only home they've ever known. Many great people, many great friends here now, and it's just someplace I'm very proud to call home.
Your kids play with an awful lot of energy, and I think I remarked last year in my game story on that game about, you say, you're familiar with the term they play to the echo of the whistle, and just the enthusiasm, and again, as I mentioned, the energy, and obviously a lot of respect for the privilege of playing high school football.
Yeah, we often talk to our kids about each and every year. The only two things we can control is our attitude and effort, and we take that very seriously. And we really try to make sure that that's a focus for our kids each and every year. And that's really, talent doesn't come into play with that. So if you can control those two things and just max out each and every year, then that's all you can ask for kids to do. And then luckily, our kids really buy into that around here, and we've been extremely blessed to have some young men and families that support our mission.
Shawn Buescher is our guest. He is the head football coach at West Jefferson. They play Mechanicsburg on Friday night at Mechanicsburg for the Ohio Heritage Conference Title II undefeated teams. Shawn, it's interesting how time goes fast. I mean, I'm sure in many ways it feels like you've been there for a long time, and then in other ways, specifically with your sons, just if you're like me as a dad, the time just bam, it's gone. I remember when you got the job at West Jeff because it coincided with the time that I bought my home here in Plain City, and I have some really close friends who, my best man at my wedding is the guy who founded West Jeff Plumbing. So I spent a lot of time over in West Jeff there, and I remember how down West Jeff football was, but I also remember how much tradition West Jeff had in the 70s and the 80s and in the 90s. So you at least had something to build to. But I look at your team this year, you've got 24 seniors. That's the finished product, that culture that you built over 2 decades. But how did you get those kids to whom tradition is, 3 years ago? How did you get those kids to understand what West Jeff Rough Rider football was and to rebuild it into what it has been here during your tenure?
Well, when we first got here, we made sure we reached out to the community members, the longstanding individuals that were very involved in the program. We involved them right away. We embraced the tradition. You got a choice to make when you take on a program like this. You're coming in, you're the 5th guy in 6 years. You can turn and run from it. You probably won't last very long if you do, or you can embrace it and bring those people in and wrap your arms around them and say, we want to build this thing back together. And that's what we were able to do. And there's a lot of men and women who have been very supportive over the years. And I'm not just talking about our parents. We've been very lucky in terms of parental support, but I'm talking just about community support too. People that their only ties they have to this program are the fact that they graduated from the school and maybe played here and love the brown and gold. And we try to wrap our arms around those people and involved in our program as much as we can. So that really helped at the beginning. It got us through some very lean years, to be quite frank. I mean, I think people really gave us the benefit of the doubt when we were trying to rebuild this thing, that we wanted to do it the right way. We wanted to do it with a solid foundation, and we wanted to try to develop young men both on and off the field. It wasn't just about winning. That's just a result of how we do things. So once we got that buy-in there, our program, we were very fortunate to have great players and great assistants and great support, and it kind of took off. So we feel very blessed over the years, and the amount of success we've had, and it's just been something that this is a great place, and it really has very little to do with me and everything to do with the people that are here.
Hey, Shawn, you play Friday night at Mechanicsburg in one of those situations or scenarios that I particularly enjoy, and let me explain why I say that. I said today to you earlier today that I think you guys playing one of the more relevant Division VI football games in the state of Ohio Friday night. You guys are ranked 13th, 15th respectively in the state polls. I think they're number 1 in the region, and you're number 3 in your region. But regardless, you guys are going to play for a title. You're both undefeated. Everybody's jacked up for the game. And regardless of who wins this, you guys still have more football to play because obviously you're going to play in the playoffs. So this really sets up Friday night for a great show and a feel good, because again, your season is hardly over if whoever wins this football game, and it really sets up well for the fans and the communities.
Yeah, it does, and I guess, Sonny, let me say this. We have a lot of respect for the success that Mechanicsburg's had, not only this year, but as I mentioned earlier, over the years. Coach Forrest and his staff and their community, they care deeply about football. They've had a lot of success, and they do a great job. They're very well coached. So yeah, this might sound a little crazy to you and Bruce and maybe some people watching, but I'll be honest with you. The fact that this is 9-0 for a league title, and and the playoffs and all that stuff is beyond. We really haven't talked about all that stuff. All we have to talk about around here it's Berg week, and some games mean more than others. And I'm not one of those coaches that act like they all mean the same, because they don't. And this has been a big game for us over the years. I would hope we are for them. We've embraced this rivalry. When we first got here, as I alluded to 20 years ago, at that time, a coach with Mechanicsburg was by the name of Neil Kasner. They were starting to go. They were on the back end of their rebuild process with him. We're having a lot of success. And I was looking at it as a young coach saying, I want to embrace our tradition here. But, they were doing a lot of good things under Neil at the time. And I think that at that current time, Coach Forrest was an assistant for him. Kurt reached out and took a head job at another school in Bloom Carroll. Had some success there and came back home. And he had to kind of rebuild the Mechanicsburg program. To be honest, when he got back, it kind of fallen on a couple of years where it was tough, and he had to go through that rebuilding process too. So it's kind of funny. Our programs have paralleled a little bit in terms of we both have had some years where we've had to rebuild. We both had to do it at the start of our careers, and as of late, the last 5 years, I said, and I just picked that because that's the time we've been in the league. I mean, both programs have been playing at a pretty high level. So all that is a great sidebar, 9-0, 9-0. I'm not going to minimize that. I understand that that's, why everybody's talking about. But if I know this sounds crazy, but if we were 0-9, 0-9, maybe the rest of the state wouldn't care. But I bet Mechanicsburg and West Jeff would care.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. Shawn Buescher is our head coaching guest tonight. He's from West Jefferson. They play Mechanicsburg on Friday, 2 9-0 teams. And I have a little bit of familiarity with both your programs because I grew up in West Liberty. And what I would say, honestly, if somebody had to say, name another town where football matters like it does a small town like West Jefferson, I'd say Mechanicsburg, because Mechanicsburg was also really good physical football team in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And so this is going to be a very interesting game for me to watch. I'm excited to cover it. And I'm excited to watch your son. I've heard a lot about your son. Tyler is started all 4 years now, took over starting quarterback middle of his freshman year. I'm sure you get asked all the time, how special is it to coach your son? I'm sure it's great, but I don't know. Is it, are you in the moment? Or are you thinking, hey, I only have X number of games left with my son as quarterback? I guess you got another one locked and loaded for next year though.
Well, I don't know about that, but here's the deal. I've said this in a couple other interviews. When Tyler was in 8th grade, we sit down as a family, and my wife and I talked to Tyler and Austin, my other son, and Andrea, my wife, and we had to make a decision. Am I going to coach him or not? And I was ready to get out. To be honest with you, I knew I'd miss the game, but I wanted it to be his experience, not having to be coached by dad and the pressure. There's enough pressure to be a quarterback and be the quarterback at a place with expectations such as West Jefferson, but let alone be coached by your father. Now, at the time, little did I know that he would ever end up being our starting quarterback, at the back end of his freshman year. So that kind of expedited that pressure rather quickly. But it's been great. I'll be honest with you, and it could have been bad, but the reason it's been great, there's a couple ways to approach this. One is our parents and our community. I really thought there might be some of that, you're playing because your dad, or, you treat your son different. And I haven't heard any of that, and neither has Tyler. So I really need to thank the people in this community. If I get anything, it's from our kids that I'm too hard on him, to be honest with you. And sometimes they may be right. I don't know. My coaches tell me that all the time. I've tried to temper that back a little bit. I hope I've got better at that, to be honest, but it's been great. We haven't taken the time to think, like what stage we are in that, because I think that would be a distraction. Bruce, I'd be dishonest with you if I didn't say, I sat with my wife it was senior night last week versus Fairbanks, and here we are, and I'm like, what's happened? It's went by so quick. But I think it would be a major disservice to our other kids for me to think in the light of the father of Tyler. To be honest, I'm when I'm at that facility, I'm the head football coach, and I owe it to all those kids in this community and our staff to be at my very best and to be focused on the job we have at hand. And we have found the balance and how to separate that. It's been a work in progress, but now you're going into year 4 of it. So I think we finally found that, that niche where it's the time to be dad and the time to be coach and time to be son and the time to be player. So, I'm proud of all of our kids, and, without all of our players doing what they need to do at the very best they could be, we wouldn't be in this situation where I'd be getting interviewed by you right now with 2 9-0 football teams.
Yeah.
I like the part where he's thrown for 2,800 yards and 28 touchdowns this year. Was that his idea or your idea? Just the way you play football, and obviously, you got a lot of pace and a lot of tempo to I watched you play last year, and you guys like to throw it and like to get up and down the field. You got a great running game. Salyer kid, I guess, last year that maybe had graduated and moved on. Maybe I don't remember exactly what grade he was in, but you guys
actually he's back. Yeah, Hayden Salyer's back, so he's our starting tailback this year.
Well, you guys got the full money to go out and attack defenses with, and when you can go out and have a quarterback that can throw for 2,800 yards, that is just such a gift to have somebody who is not afraid to go out and attack defenses like that.
Yeah, we try to be balanced offensively, to be honest with you. We're going to take, I know it sounds cliche, but we're going to take what the defense gives us. We only don't look at balance, though, in terms of run-pass ratio. We look at it in terms of trying to distribute touches. Some years we've been better at that than others, and our core of our offense over the years has always stayed the same. Like, 2 years ago, we were a Final Four team with a kid that ran for over 2,000 yards, right? So, we're going to tweak things and emphasize what we think what our strengths are. But in the course of each year, we do want to try to find that balance and at least make people defend the whole field, from a width standpoint in terms of who they have to defend. That's always been our philosophy. But, a lot of people like to talk to us about our offense, but I'll be honest with you. We've been at our best over the years when we play well defensively, and I think that's the major reason. Our special teams is playing at a high level right now, and defensively, this is as good as we've been in a little while. Now, we got a big challenge coming to us Friday because, both from all three phases. Mechanicsburg is a tremendous offense. They put you in major conflict with what they do scheme-wise, RPOs, formations. Coach Forrest does a great job with that, and defensively, they've always been tremendous. So it's always been one of our biggest challenges each and every year, just to try to get first downs, let alone score points.
I was going to ask you this as we wrap up, Coach. Give us a little bit of what, is at the top of your list of concerns when you play Mechanicsburg.
I'm sorry, Bruce. Could you re-ask that? You were breaking up. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I said I just wonder, as we wrap up, what is at the top of your list of concerns as you play Mechanicsburg? Is it dealing with all that they do offensively or something else?
Well, and their kids play hard. I mean, they're well coached. Their technique sound. They really understand who they are. I really feel like, they have a philosophy. They have a very structured approach in how they go about things. They believe in what they are from a program standpoint. You can tell that how they play. How they manage games each and every year. There's definitely a systematic approach to what they do. And, it's funny. They have an identity. And I think any program, if you really look, if you look at them year in and year out, you can say, well, that's Mechanicsburg, right? Their kids understand that. Their coaches understand what they are. I would hope that people will look at us and think the same way. And it really comes down to the foundation of, their kids are very physical. They play very hard. Coach Forrest and his staff is able to coach them very hard. So they get the most out of them. And so that is the start of, I think of any great team, if you will, and great program, probably more importantly. But from a schematic standpoint, Bruce, I already kind of alluded to it. Offensively, they do a great job of creating conflict. They do a lot of different formations. They do some RPO stuff. They got a great running back and quarterback, so they create balance from the run game in terms of the touches that I alluded to that we try to do. Now, we're very different how we go about it, but it's still they're very effective at what they do. And then defensively, they run very well. They'll give a multitude of fronts. They do mix up their coverages a little bit, but they know who they are. They have an identity, and they flat out run and they tackle well. So, and in special teams, they put all their players out there as well. So, it's a great challenge. It is. I love this game. I got every year. It's a great game. I love to prepare for this game. I love the way our kids practice for this game. I love pregame. I love the adjustments that's made during the game and at halftime. This is what high school football is all about. This game right here.
Before we get away, I want to ask you a philosophical question, because I think we live in a day where you've mentioned winning more than once during the last 15 minutes. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who confuse winning with an obsession on something besides the current culture of participation and inclusion and things like that. And I enjoy asking coaches to share the attributes Brett Pierce at Milton Union told me earlier this week, he said, winning isn't everything, but preparing to win is the key. He said, that's what we want to share with our kids. You can prepare to win and prepare for success. Winning is a byproduct. And I would like to hear what you tell your kids and your parents and people who are maybe critics of winning in this day and age, why winning is so important to teach the young people, or at least the preparedness of doing it, and how that follows them through life.
Well, I think winning is a result of our process, really. And I know that, you hear that word thrown around now because you hear Coach Saban talk about it, so everybody kind of jumps onto it. But I think he is spot on there. And I guess I don't want to go down the rabbit hole because I don't know you guys got a show to do here, but we really want to develop kids to win both on and off the field. And we define that. I mean, our program motto is only champions play here. And we're not just talking about being champions on the field. A champion to us is being the best you can be, being the best version of you, both on and off the field. We want to develop kids socially, academically, and athletically. And to be honest with you, in that order. So you got to be well-rounded to be successful in our program. And we want our kids to not only be great people. We want them to be great sons, hopefully down the road, be great, husbands and fathers. And we want them to make sure they're great students and max their experience out here at West Jeff High School. So they have options after high school to be able to go do whatever they want, even if it's, to go in the workforce, the military, to go into college. And obviously we want them to be great athletes and not just football players. We want our kids involved in as many things as they possibly can. We're a small school. So we feel like the more kids we get involved in things, the better it is for West Jefferson, the better it is for our culture of our school, not just our football program. And we preach those things. So, and throughout that, and we have core values and we talk about things, we talk about one each day. But I think if you really focus on the process each and every week, and focus on the day and try to be the best you can, Sonny, I really feel like in the end, then you're going to max yourself out. And that's what really we focus and talk to our kids about.
Excellent. Excellent. I appreciate your sharing that with us. And again, as I said to you today, I think what you guys are offering the respective communities Friday nights is an exciting show and something that I know just from hearing you the last 15 minutes that you're looking forward to. I wish you guys all the best, you and Kurt both. And stay healthy and enjoy the moment.
We will. We're excited, and I'm sure they are too. So we're looking forward to seeing you guys there on Friday night.
All right, Coach. We'll see you Friday. Thanks so much for your time, and congratulations on your success so far this season.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Shawn Buescher from West Jefferson, a really good program. And, Sonny, it's striking when you have what we do, it's really cool when you hear from guys who've made a difference in so many kids' lives over such a long period of time, and they're very successful at what they do, and they could have chased the dream, quote unquote, the dream. And there's nothing wrong with the guys who do, and there's nothing wrong with the guys who don't. And I just love, talking to guys like Coach Buescher and Chip Botten and Steve Nolan and, on and on and on, our friend Tim Beckman, and guys who've really made a difference and built programs at the high school level, because they change communities. They make communities better. And it's a really cool thing to see. And you can hear the passion in his voice when he talks about that.
They change communities, but they change lives.
Yeah. They do.
That's how they change communities. And they're changing lives 10 and 15 years down the road. I love to tell the story about one instance that I had in competitive sports, and this was at Ohio State. I gave up a home run one time, and the coach came out and took me out of the game, looked me in the eye, and he said, "I'm sorry I brought you on the trip." And I mean, that's a devastating thing to hear. You think, am I that bad? But, I went home and I thought, this can never happen again. And I began that particular moment convinced me that I wasn't mentally tough enough to compete, and I had to get better if I wanted to play. And I really did want to play. And that has driven me and motivated me for the rest of my life. You've got to be prepared for the moment. I don't care what it is. It's how you get the school you want, the job you want, the wife you want, the husband you want. Everything is in life is about competition. Nothing should be given to you. And, I don't know where else you learn it except through men like Shawn Buescher and Steve Nolan and Jim Hardman and the people that I've
Bill
known in
Neese.
my life. Yeah, Bill Neese and people
Yeah.
like that have had that kind of impact on young men and women, because
And Goodwin.
the Diana Kramers of the
Sure.
world do it too.
Absolutely right. Carla Siegel. Yeah, I mean, just so many coaches that we're fortunate to have spent time with. And then, as we expand into Central Ohio, Dave Starling at New Albany, and on and on and on. Just a bunch of great coaches out there. And that's really important, and a very valuable piece of a local community. I have to apologize to Kelly, because she is absolutely right. I did, not by design, forget the Big Walnut Eagles, and they are bearing down on an undefeated season, and they are loaded offensively in Nate Sievers, and I know the receivers of Pentello, but there's so many Rockies and Roccos, and I can't remember Nicky. It's Nicky Pentello at Big Walnut. They are loaded. They won the state championship in 2007, I think. And they pounded Westerville South in a game we covered at Press Pros a couple weeks ago. So, yes, Big Walnut is definitely bearing down on an OCC division title as well. Shout out to our buddy Mark Munch Bishop. He'd like to hear us talk about the St. Ignatius Wildcats. I know he's from up in the Cleveland area. Munch is a great, great friend, great, great man. And you get better soon, my friend. He just had a little heart procedure up there. Tim weighs in on Mechanicsburg. He said Mechanicsburg is toughness. He's absolutely right about that, but so is West Jeff. That's why Friday night's going to be such a treat to watch. And then Keith has a question for us from Florida. He says, when will state football teams learn their first game opponents? Sonny, this ought to be a pretty easy question to answer, should it not?
Well, it happens after Friday night's football game. It's a very busy weekend, Keith, and those typically those assignments or those matchups are announced on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening. They've been looking at this. I mean, this is not going to be something they just draw from a hat. So it'll be calculated, and it'll be announced typically on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, and prior to Monday, and so they can get everything arranged, and tickets and accommodations, all those kind of things you have to do. You only got 5 days to put together a party like that, where you're going to have a lot of people that I think it's going to be a very interesting first week. Somebody asked me just today. In fact, we have a Reader Speaks question that came in this afternoon, almost the same question of Keith Brooks, about the first week of the playoffs, and who we think and who are going to be some of the unusual or better or worse matchups. And I can't answer that yet, and nobody can until after Friday night.
Well, am I wrong on this? Isn't it pretty self-evident once the final computer polls are out? I mean, if you got 16 teams in each region, the 16 will play the 1, the 2 will play the 15, the 3 will play the 14. I mean, that's the way it's got to be, doesn't it?
That's the way it's got to be, but there's always some adjustments, because you have some things happen on Friday night that are inexplicable or unforeseen. You'll have some upsets, if you believe in upsets, and you'll have some outcomes, I guess, that are going to change the order of things a little bit. But typically that Keith and to Joe, who wrote to us, that'll be announced over this weekend, and you'll know by Sunday night who's going to play who next Friday.
Yeah, and I mean, it's no different than your NCAA tournament first round. I mean, you look at your 8-9 and your 7-10. Your 6-11 games are going to be the games that you'd think you would have the best chance for a high quality game, and maybe for an upset. What's the biggest upset in a first round game? Here's a question, Sonny. Would you say it's more likely that you would have in the NCAA tournament? They always classify an upset as a difference of 4 seeding spots. Okay, so a 9 over an 8 is not an upset. A 7 over a 10 is not an upset. But a 6-11 is an upset. Okay, so would you say a 6-11 or a 5-12 is more apt to happen in Division 1 or in Division 7?
I would think it'd be more unusual to see in Division 1.
You think it's more rare in Division 1? I think
it's more rare in Division 1. Yes, and wow. In fact, you don't.
I think it's more rare in Division 7.
Well, the reason I say that is because there's so many people who believe that Division 6 and 7 is so watered down now, because there's a lot of people out there who steadfastly believe 6 divisions is enough.
Yeah.
And when you get into those teams in that extra division where the inexplicable seems to happen, it's a little bit more unpredictable, I think, in 6 and 7 because of being watered down than what it is in Division 1. Division 1, there's far fewer Division 1 teams. And so it's a little bit more predictable and a little bit more calculated, and certainly a little bit more just well, the rosters are more equivalent. The balance is a little bit more is a little closer. Just look at what we've been talking about in Central Ohio, all those Division I teams in the OCC and how tightly grouped they are. That is a microcosm of Division I football across the state, for that matter, in Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati and Dayton. Now, I don't think you quite have that type of predictability between Division 6 and Division 7. So I would think it'd be more rare to see something like that happen in Division 1.
Well, I think you just said the opposite of what you meant. I think you mean it's more apt to happen in Division 1, an upset. Because
no, I think it's more apt. I think it's more apt to happen in Division 6 and 7 than it is in Division 1.
Okay.
Now,
yeah,
because I don't know. It depends on what you consider an upset. Because Division 1, you have all those teams that are so equally balanced and so equally paired. I mean, the talent level is certainly greater in Division 1 than it is in 6 and 6. For instance, in Division 7, you may have a great team that come out of Division 7 like New Bremen that has 2 particular players that stand out on the field. In Division 1, you're apt to have 5, 6, 7, 8 players on both sides of the ball, or on, when you consider both sides of the ball, that are that type of impact players. You just don't have that many players like that in Division 6 and 7.
Yeah, I think the upsets are more apt to happen in Division 1 because of that you have there's not as big a disparity in talent. I think a team like a Hilliard-Bradley, or a team like even an Olentangy Orange, which is, I think Orange has 1 win. I'm telling you, they're not going to beat a 1, but Orange could give somebody trouble. And Bradley, I've seen them play Upper Arlington where they look like it couldn't beat anybody. And then the next week they beat Hilliard-Davidson. So I think teams that, what we don't know are there teams that are way down in their region because they've had a player injured? Like, they're not way down in their region, but let's take Tri-Village. Tri-Village losing Lane Sarver. If they get Lane Sarver back for the playoffs, like, watch out for Tri-Village, And DeSales has a player who was first team Central District last year, who has not played but was walking around on the sidelines the other day. Really good linebacker, really good running back. DeSales gets him back. I wouldn't want to play DeSales. So I don't think we'll see a bunch of upsets in week 1, but in week 2, I think we'll start to see some upsets, and that'll be fun, because it's fun unless you're the victim of an upset. That's for sure.
What in where I sit tonight, I don't get to see a lot of Division 1 playoff games over the years, but I have seen a number of 6 and 7 upsets or surprise finishes, and you come away thinking, man, who saw that coming? Mm-hmm. Because one, you don't know as much about Division 6 and 7 teams because it's not as publicized across the state like Division 1 and Division 2 is. That's where the major recruits for Division 1 college football come, and it gets a lot more of attention. So my just own personal experience, I've seen more things that I couldn't explain out of 6 and 7 than I could out of Division 2, maybe Division 3. Here, or even Division 4. I go back to what I said at the beginning of the show tonight about Milton Union. They're ranked 7th in that region. I'm not sure they're not being overlooked by some teams. You saw them last week, and I don't think enough people understand that behind Blake Newmeyer and Blake Broomball, they've got 4 or 5 other impact players that can be the difference in a football game.
Yeah, Michael Elam's a really good player. Their defense is very underrated. The thing I don't know about is how good are the other teams in Division 4 with them. Milton is a team that is hurt by the fact that it's the biggest school in its league. So it's not accruing a bunch of computer points by playing the Troy Christians and the Covingtons and teams like that. So that's a team, you're absolutely right. where you see Milton in week 2 playing a 1 or playing a 2, that could be a surprise for somebody. Now, this, Sonny, this has got to be the lamest excuse I've ever heard for not going to a high school football game. Tim says he was the one who told us about Mechanicsburg's toughness. He says, I won't be at the Mechanicsburg West Jeff game Friday. Unfortunately, heading to Indianapolis for the weekend to go to Ohio State-Indiana game. Now, Sonny, remind Tim when that Ohio State-Indiana game kicks off.
Tim, let me share this with you. I will be at both games.
Yeah.
I'll be at a high school game on Friday night
Tim.
because Ohio State doesn't play till 7:30 the next day.
That's right, Tim. So we're finding out who loves football and who doesn't.
And Mark Snyder and I will leave from my house to get to Bloomington about 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. So I don't question what your plans are for the weekend, but there's certainly a way to get this done if you want to see both games. And I just think that Mechanicsburg West Jeff game on Friday night is, well, I think it's going to be a marquee game. I think it's going to honestly be one of the more relevant games, certainly in Division 6 and 7 in the state of Ohio Friday night. And just like Shawn Buescher talked to us a moment ago, the atmosphere, the environment is going to be electric for that because it means so much to so many people. Yeah,
and I don't know if Tim's a Mechanicsburg fan, but I don't think very many Mechanicsburg fans are going to take that as a
Tim, let me share this with you too.
I think for skipping that game, Tim. Although here, I think says nightlife in Indianapolis.
Yeah, nightlife. Well, I think you're going to see a lot better football game in Mechanicsburg Friday night than what you're going to see, and I'm going to see in Indianapolis on Saturday.
Yes, that's absolutely right. That is absolutely right. Now, Tim notes that you don't want to play a 5-5 MAC school in the playoffs. You might get knocked off. That's absolutely true. And Valerie notes that Piqua is number 2 in Division 2. They moved up.
There you go.
Congratulations. There you go. Good job.
There you go.
Mechanicsburg Indians. Thank you very much for that, Valerie. We appreciate it very much. All right. Did you make a reference to the Reader Speaks, my friend? Do you have a Reader
I've got a couple questions here. I got one from a first-time writer to us named Joe Notestein. I hope I get that. Is that how you pronounce it? N-O-T-E-S-T-I-N?
That's how you pronounce it. Yes, sir.
Notestein.
Yep.
Who said, I read about the MAC a lot on Press Pros. How do you compare this Marion local team to teams of the past? They are undefeated, number 1 in the state of Ohio. Big win over Coldwater the other night with a walk-off field goal by Kevin Partington with 2 seconds left to go, and they win 24-21. I have seen a lot of Marion local teams over the years. Joe, all I can tell you is that they tend to blend together because they are so alike in the way their constitution, the way they're put together, and the way they play under Tim Goodwin. Again, the other night, I think this is important. They're missing 2 vital players out of their backfield. Their number 1 and 2 running backs are both out with broken legs.
Wow.
Or a knee, one with a knee and one, I think, with an ankle injury. So they're not going to play the rest of the year. And yet they just keep plugging in a freshman or a sophomore here and there. They are so confident in the way they play in assignment football. Just do your job and execute. And if you execute, we've got the plays and we have the experience to go out and know how to use the tools at hand to be successful. And I don't think they're any different, even with 2 significant injuries this year, than what they've been in the past. Their defense is excellent. They've got 3 or 4 linebackers there that can just go sideline to sideline and hunt you down and get you. And they had to do that the other night because Coldwater, once again, is a team that, as Chip Otten likes to say, they spread the wealth. They've got 4 or 5 wide receivers there. Tim Goodwin said all 5 of them can fly. Go get the ball, and they got a quarterback that can sling it. They can put it over the top of your head and into the end zone in the bat of an eye. So you have to respect so much about the way Coldwater plays. And yet they were able to hang in there the other night, withstood a comeback in the second half by Coldwater, who tied the game midway through the fourth quarter at 21-21. And they got the last possession. They got it down the field and kicked a 25-yard field goal to win it. So to answer your question, they look like Marion local teams of the past. only a couple of times can I remember where I thought, man, these guys are world beaters.
Yeah.
It's just that's not the case. I think they've had one Division I college player, John Dirksen, who's at Notre Dame right now, in the 21-year history of Tim Goodwin coaching at Marion Local. So they do it with just kids that believe in the system, believe in themselves and each other. And I hope that answers your question. That's Marion Local in 2021. We have another question here from Steve, no last name, who texted me earlier and says, what do you think of Piqua chances this year? And what do you think of them going forward into the Division II playoffs? I personally haven't seen them. We've written them 4 or 5 times this year. It's usually been Greg Billing who has seen and covered them on Friday nights while I was in covering teams in the MAC. But my only concern about Piqua, I know they're very talented. They've got speed, they've got size, they've got great experience, and no one is better coached than prepared than the way that Bill Neese and his staff prepares the Indians. I think the only question anybody could have about him is strength of schedule. The Miami Valley North Division, what they call the Miami Division, has not been had a strong year when you consider the Butler's record and Sydney's record. Tip City's had a fine year, and I think they're set up to have some success in the early rounds of the playoff. Greenville is off this year. Fairborn's not had a particularly good year. Stebbins has had a winning record. West Carrollton, of course. So again, a steady diet of that. I don't know how well that prepares you to play the Turpins and the Kings and the LaSalles and the Andersons that they're going to ultimately see coming out of Cincinnati and that part of the region. So, but they're the real deal. Josiah Medley is another great running back following Karan Coleman last year. Their quarterback is certainly Brady Uhl is certainly a playmaker. So they're set up to be an exciting team to watch, and we look forward to seeing them.
Yeah, I don't know how we compare MAC-wise and other team-wise to what we've had before, but I think we've got Piqua in Division II. We've got a slew of Division I teams from Central Ohio. We have Versailles Division V, Milton Union Division IV. We have Coldwater, obviously, in Division VI. And we've got a bunch of Division VII teams with Marion Local and New Bremen at the top of that list. So
St. Henry,
yeah. And
St. Henry's got a chance to finish 7-3 and make a run.
Yeah, we've had years where the MAC's had 3 state championship teams, so it's not unusual. I think 2 years they've done that, and 8 of the last 9 they've put 2 or more teams in the state finals. The MAC, 8 of the last 9 years, 2 or more teams in the state finals. That's crazy.
Well, again, we said this at the beginning of the year. I think there are more good football teams in the area this year. And yet, having said that, there is a wider gulf between the really goods and the teams struggling to get over the hump, to get to 500. Yeah. There's not a lot of in-between as it is proven to be. I think one of the things that proves that is the record we've had in picking on Friday night. We've had a really way too good a year over here when you consider, I think we have 80 of 88 games. But again, there's not a lot of in between. Those 5, 6, 7, 8 seeds that are going to end up playing here in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the playoffs. I think you're going to see you're going to see the rich get richer and maybe the poor on the other end continue to struggle. I'm eager now that it's here and it's evident that there's going to be 16 teams to see how this all works out. And if the critics of it were right, if the proponents of it were right, who's more righter and who benefits the most from it? Kids of the OHSAA.
Tim says you answered that right on the money. Reminds him of 96 when Troy was ranked 19th in the U.S. and number 1 in Ohio. The regular season schedule catches up with you eventually. Do you, in fact, remember that, Mr. Fuller?
I do remember that team. I absolutely remember that team. That might have been Ryan Brewer.
Well, let's see. Yes,
memory serves me.
That would have been Ryan Brewer because Ryan Brewer played for
South Carolina.
I know Ryan Brewer played for South Carolina in 2001. So yep. I don't know what grade he was in when he was the hero of the Outback Bowl against Ohio State, but that would possibly work out with him being at Troy in the mid-90s and 96.
There's a lot of instances, a lot of stories like that across Ohio football or high school football everywhere, where you're ranked 19th in the country, or you people think there's just no way this is not their year to win it all, but yet somebody's going to show up on a Friday night that has had an experience that has prepared them more for the moment than maybe you. And you can't explain that. You can't predict it. You can't, I'm not even sure you can always prepare for it, but that's what a lot of people are looking at Piqua right now and saying, yeah, they've had a fantastic year and there's no questioning their quality on all fronts. It's just what happens when you have to play those teams that have had a more competitive background to get here.
Yeah. We are presented by our friends at visitcanton.com. They are the place to go for all the latest and best information on lodging, on dining, and on attractions for state football championship weekend. It's going to be a great state championship weekend. Not very many people from our area have seen the renovated Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium adjacent to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If you've never been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it is, budget 3 or 4 hours. It is a phenomenal tour. You will love it. Bring some money because they've got the best NFL gift shop you've ever seen with gear for every team in the National Football League. Great restaurants in Canton, great shopping in Canton, plenty of hotels in Canton, and you'll find out about all of it at visitcanton.com. They are the presenting sponsor of the Press Pros Huddle Show. And with that, Mr. Folks, do you have anything else for us tonight, or shall
I would say this about going to the Hall of Fame. I can't get past the movies. Those old films of Jim Brown and the 60s and the 70s and the players of that era are captivating to watch. They do a superb job. I don't know what's number one and number two between that and the Baseball Hall of Fame, because when you go to Cooperstown, the ghosts of that place are pretty compelling as well. But now Canton is a special place to go. You said it correctly. You do most of the talking about that every week, but I'm just always impressed about how much that event means to the people who live and work and have businesses there, because they really do turn out to make visitors feel like we're glad you're here and we want you to come back. And I think that's the best thing you can say about any place.
It's definitely going to have a big event feel to it, because it is a big event to the people in Stark County. They really do appreciate it.
You remember last year the visual of driving by the interstate. I think that's Route 63 that goes by that stadium there, Tom Benson Stadium, at night with the lights on. I mean, that is an impressive edifice now. When you go by there and just look, you can look in and see down on the field and the way the stands rise up on the west side of the field there. It is a magnificent edifice, place to play. And you talking about a great environment and something that kids are going to remember for the rest of their life. If they're fortunate enough to be there, that's it. They've got it.
Yes, indeed. We want to thank you for watching the show live. We want to encourage you to obviously go to PressProsMagazine.com every day. We'll have a story up soon on Ohio State's linebackers. Buckeyes play on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. at Bloomington. Their game against Penn State next week will be at 7:30 in the Horseshoe. Ohio State basketball coverage is ramping up. University of Dayton football coverage.
You slipped in a little basketball last night.
Their team's almost as old as I am. They've got 5 fifth-year guys and 2 fourth-year guys and a 6th-year guy. So, Chris Holtman could almost play for this team. They're so old.
I want to thank Shawn Buescher again for coming on with us tonight, because I contacted him late this afternoon, and he was gracious enough to share his evening. It was a great interview, and I couldn't say it again and say it better than that's going to be a nice game on Friday night for people to watch, and they've got something very, very good at Mechanicsburg and West Jefferson.
Yes, they do. So if you're watching it on the replay, thanks for doing that. Tell your friends about the show. Tell your friends about the site. And we always end the show by telling our friend Truman,
go to bed, Truman.
And don't bite, Truman. Next time, don't bite.
That's being contested. Your claim of him biting you is being contested.
He bit me. Truman bit me. So
you may have to. That may have been a different dog, but you're going to have to go down to London and plead your case.
Well, you got time to go watch your baseball game because Cody Bellinger just hit a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 8th, and we're all tied 5-5.
All right. That'll happen to you.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Truman, go to bed. And
See you next week.